In the still darkness of occupied France, a woman waits in the shadows. Her hair is tucked under a beret, her bicycle resting against a wall still wet from rain. From far away, headlights cut through the fog. A German patrol is coming. She doesn't move. Inside her coat pocket lies a coded message, one that could decide whether hundreds live or die. If she's caught, there will be no trial, no mercy, only the cold silence of a prison cell and the echo of boots on concrete. Her name was Nancy Wake. To the Gestapo, she was known as the White Mouse. To her allies, she was a hero. And to history, she was one of the most dangerous women of World War II. This is the untold story of the spies, the men and women who fought not with tanks or guns, but with whispers, deception, and courage. They lived in the shadows, forged false identities, and risked everything behind enemy lines. They were the secret soldiers of the Second World War, and their stories changed the course of history. World War II was fought on every front, land, sea, and air. But there was another battlefield, one invisible to the public eye. It was a war of intelligence, espionage, and code-breaking. In the shadows of the great conflict, spies operated in silence, their victories often hidden behind layers of secrecy that would remain classified for decades. They carried no rank, no medals, and often no hope of survival. But they gathered the intelligence that shaped invasions, exposed traitors, and revealed enemy plans. From London's underground offices of MI6 to the smoke-filled bars of Paris, from Tokyo's press circles to the snowy forests of Norway, agents of every kind, soldiers, scientists, journalists, and ordinary citizens became instruments in a vast, invisible network. This was the hidden war, the war behind the war. In this episode, we explore the extraordinary lives of the spies who defied impossible odds, starting with one woman who became a legend. When the German army marched into France in 1940, a young New Zealand-born journalist living in Marseille made a choice that would change her life forever. Her name was Nancy Wake, and at the start of the war, she was anything but a soldier. She was charming, outspoken, and bold, qualities that soon caught the attention of the Gestapo for all the wrong reasons. Nancy's journey began not on a battlefield, but in the salons and cafes of southern France. She watched the Nazis tighten their grip on Europe, watched innocent people being dragged away for their faith, their politics, their resistance, and she swore she would never live under tyranny. By 1941, she had joined the French resistance, a vast underground network of civilians who sabotaged rail lines, smuggled messages, and helped Allied airmen escape capture. Nancy Wake's charm became her weapon. She moved through Nazi checkpoints with a smile, carrying secret documents hidden in her clothes or bicycle frame. Her ability to bluff and improvise saved countless lives. Soon, she became one of the Gestapo's most wanted targets. They called her the White Mouse because every time they thought they had her cornered, she slipped away. By 1943, her cover was blown. The Gestapo raided her home and arrested hundreds connected to her network. Nancy barely escaped France, crossing the Pyrenees Mountains on foot to reach Spain, and from there she made her way to Britain. In London, she joined the Special Operations Executive, the SOE, Britain's secret organization formed by Winston Churchill to set Europe ablaze. In 1944, as the Allies prepared for D-Day, Nancy parachuted back into France, this time not as a courier but as a commander. She landed in the Auvergne region under the cover of night, armed with a Sten gun, grenades, and her unbreakable determination. Her mission? To organize thousands of local resistance fighters, the Maquis, and disrupt German supply lines before the Normandy invasion. She trained men twice her size, distributed weapons dropped by Allied planes, and coordinated sabotage operations across vast stretches of countryside. Under her leadership, bridges were blown, trains derailed, and German convoys ambushed. She once cycled over 500 kilometers in 3 days through enemy territory to replace a destroyed radio transmitter and re-establish contact with London. It was one of the most remarkable endurance feats of the war, and she did it without sleep, food, or fear. Behind the courage, however, lay unimaginable pain. When Nancy fled France, her husband, Henri Fiocca, refused to leave Marseille. He was captured by the Gestapo, tortured, and executed because he refused to betray her location. Nancy didn't learn of his death until after the war. She later said, "There were many things I had to forget if I was to go on living." She did not cry in public, but her every action from that moment was driven by the memory of her husband and the friends she lost. By the time France was liberated, Nancy Wake had become a symbol of defiance and courage. She was awarded medals from Britain, France, and the United States, including the George Medal, the Medal of Freedom, and the Croix de Guerre. When asked years later how she found such strength, she simply said, "I hate wars and violence, but if they come, then I don't see why we women should just wave our men goodbye and let them do all the fighting." Nancy Wake's story reminds us that espionage was never just about codes and missions. It was about people, their courage, sacrifice, and the quiet determination to fight evil in whatever way they could. She survived the war, lived to the age of 98, and was laid to rest in 2011. But her spirit lives on in every woman and man who dares to resist tyranny. Next, we move east, to a man whose mind became one of the most dangerous weapons in the Soviet arsenal. A journalist living in Japan who managed to uncover one of the greatest secrets of the war and changed the fate of the Eastern Front forever. His name was Richard Sorge.